I want to serve the community with chiropractic care. And the way to do that in the social media world is to get the message out. Studies show it takes 10 to 20 times before people get it. You just got to continue that message. There might be a post that all of a sudden resonates, and then they look back on it and say, wow, okay, now I can really start understanding what chiropractic is all about.
Hey, Smart Chiropractors. Welcome to Interviews by the Smart Chiropractor. I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. Today, we have the opportunity to connect with a doc that we've both known for a little while. We're happy to sit down and speak with Dr. JT Anderson, great sports chiropractor and author, as we'll discuss, and more. JT, thanks for chatting with us today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you again for all that you do for our profession.
Well, that is very, very kind of you, especially with what I see you doing for our profession. One of those things is a new book called No Bones About It. And we were talking pre-roll. It sounds like you really are using this as a way to unmask the untruths about chiropractic, help people understand who we are and what we do. Before you explain more about the book, writing one is a gargantuan task. Jason and I have done it. This is not only that, this is not your first book. What got you interested in becoming an author? I'd love to know the answer to that.
You know, ultimately, I think we all have a story. And if it just sits on a shelf and nobody opens it up, for instance, it really goes to waste. And so for me, I felt like the stories that I've written in my first book, and of course, the second one is a legacy book for my kids and my family and for people that know and love me. So it was easy as far as getting the process started. A lot of people poured their heart and souls into it. And so for that, I'm very appreciative.
It appears as if your first book was outside the fence, a more personal book. This book we're talking about here today, No Bones About It, a memoir of a chiropractor. Why should chiropractors rush, I assume, to Amazon to pick up a copy?
You know, I think, again, as a chiropractor in our profession, we all have a story behind why we got into chiropractic, right? It's very rare that you see somebody coming in off Wall Street and just decide, you know what, I want to be a chiropractor. For me, my tale is long, and it really involves lower back and neck conditions, mainly genetically. And I tried all sorts of therapies. It just didn't work. And a chiropractor found me at a young age, took me in, demonstrated the benefits of chiropractic. And so I feel like this book is really a true-hearted story that will bring the readers into a better knowledge of why I chose chiropractic as a profession.
Hey, Doc, the money is in your list. If you're not utilizing weekly email newsletters to drive reactivations into your practice, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. To schedule a demo and see how we help hundreds of docs do this each and every week, go to thesmartchiropractor.com today. Again, that is thesmartchiropractor.com. Schedule a demo with our team. But right now, we'll get back into this awesome interview on Interviews by the Smart Chiropractor. That makes sense. There is no shortage of misinformation and non-information out there about who we are and what we do. I'll ask you, as you went through this process, I'm sure that you kind of evaluated, hey, what's the public's knowledge of chiropractic? What am I hearing in practice all day, every day? What are people seeing out in the field? And my question to you regarding that is, why do you think there is so much misinformation and non-information about who we are and what we do as chiropractors out there? That's a tough one, by the way, but why do you think so?
Well, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but we live in Western medicine. You have a headache, you take Advil. And, you know, as a chiropractor, we realize that your headaches aren't a lack of Advil in your diet. There's something that is causing that headache, whether it's mental, physical, or nutritional stress. And so I really feel like chiropractic needs to be really launched in a profession that people are understanding that we can work with the medical profession hand in hand. It doesn't have to be either or. And I'm not trying to necessarily push chiropractic on individuals that aren't interested, but I do want to defend chiropractic and explain it does work.
It sure does. Help us understand, you're doing this book specifically, from what I understand, for other chiropractors, primarily. That's a unique perspective. Most chiropractors, they get out and it becomes all about, how do I make a living for myself and my family? And here you are putting in time, energy, effort, passion, compassion into helping other chiropractors. Maybe dig deeper into your story and why do you want to help other chiropractors, and what do you hope they get? What's the takeaway message that you hope they understand?
You know, for me, I think the book really helps to light a fire of why you chose chiropractic as a profession to dive into. And It doesn't stop with your degree. It doesn't stop with a certain time frame that you've been in practice, but every single day should be a journey. And one of the things that I always say is, Lord, you send them and I'll serve them. And I have no idea sometimes who might be walking through the door, but as a servant, I want to make sure that I'm available, and whether I can help that patient or not, ultimately, at least I can point them in the right direction. So again, I think to your point, my focus is, as a chiropractor would read this book, is to get re-energized, to look at a section in there, for instance, what are the top 10 podcasts? Smart Chiropractor being number one. What are some of the chiropractic schools out there that are available? Stay motivated, stay focused on why you love chiropractic, and don't lose sight of it.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And I know a lot of the younger docs that are listening, we've talked about it a lot on this podcast, as a matter of fact, is the interest in sports chiropractic. And yourself as a sports chiropractor, professional teams, bowlers, dartists, is that what they have? Professional dart players? We're talking about pre-roll. You've really seen it all. And I'd be curious to know what ignited your passion around sports chiropractic, and how did you see that evolve in the early part of your career, when I'm going to assume that chiropractors probably weren't as accustomed to being on the sidelines as they are today?
Well, yeah. So in that point there's only 3 chiropractors that were considered NFL chiropractors for teams. And as it started to blossom, now you're starting to see every single team has a chiropractor on staff, or multiple chiropractors in the case of the Denver Broncos. For me, being somebody that was very athletic in younger years, my first thought was I wanted to be a personal trainer. Then I wanted to be an athletic trainer. I started looking at the long hours, 60 to 80 hours, working for very minimal pay. Plus, I'd be under the directives of other doctors and so forth. And I knew chiropractic allows for an expansion of those type of modalities. The no bones about it part of it is you don't even have to manipulate to be a chiropractor. You could dive into nutrition. You could dive into energetic medicine. There's so many possibilities that it really is a broad scope, and it doesn't have to be just about popping bones, if you will.
JT, I'd be curious, what do you think are some of the greatest strengths of the profession? And I guess I'm also want to know, what do you think are some of the biggest weaknesses that hold our profession, whether it's an individual chiropractor back or the collective profession back, from the potential many of us believe that it's not reaching?
Well, I'll go with the weaknesses first. I think, again, a lack of, diving into, let's say, the Smart Chiropractic podcast, doing that on a very regular basis to stay motivated. That's a weakness. People get very complacent. They literally punch a clock. They're done with patients. They can't wait for the weekend. I think the other weakness is you need to have other chiropractors that you're able to sharpen each other with. Iron sharpens iron. And if you're, again, on an island by yourself, it's very, very hard to stay motivated in the profession. So, having somebody out there that you can go to and talk about cases with, that is something that is very powerful. The strengths of chiropractic, I would say, honestly, is that we have so much availability in the terms of what we can do to help a patient. Again, a patient may walk in the door, and really what they need more than anything is a full nutritional reboot. They may need an exercise program. They need to get their nervous system turned back on again, or all of the above. So the strengths are, you can do whatever you want as a professional, because the patients in themselves are so used to the medical model, which can ultimately drive them further down the path that they're in right now.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And I want to say something about this, kind of pause for a moment and really encourage everybody listening and watching, head over to Amazon and pick up a copy of the book. I was speaking with a colleague of ours yesterday, and you just made me think of it. And it's really, how can we support each other? JT, I'll give you commendation for taking the time, effort, energy to get out there, to write a book, to put yourself out there, to get it on Amazon, to hop on a podcast today and chat about it. And I think we as a profession can do a little bit better supporting each other. So I'm going to really encourage everybody listening and watching to do so. A little bit of an aside, more than a question there, but I do have a question on the tail end. And that is, as you've gone through and built your own practice, as you've seen the struggles, I'm sure that many of us have, building, growing, developing a practice, I think towards some of the business and marketing of this is what we talk about a lot. And I'd be curious to know your insight on maybe either 2 or 3 things that you've learned along the way that you think would be important for younger docs to learn, or some business principles that you hold today that you think would be helpful for the listeners to know. I think it really ties into a memoir, into your journey, because in order to serve people, we have to stay open. And part of that comes down to the realities of business. I'd love to know a couple insights from your own journey.
The social media platform is huge. And I would have never met you guys unless if I, was privy to the information that was out there, right? Because I realized that having a YouTube channel where I can express myself, show exercises, explain the chiropractic truths available. Also, using Amplified, for instance, where my patients every day, they get 2 or 3 different, Facebook posts, and they dive into it. They can determine whether or not they want to read it, like it, share it, whatever. But those social media aspects that I didn't have when I first started 28 years ago, it makes total sense now. You've got to surround yourself with good social media platforms. And again, going back to Smart Chiropractor, you guys have really done a phenomenal job.
Hey, it's Dr. Jason. I just want to take a brief moment and invite you to schedule a demo with our team to learn more about our Patient Pilot automated email campaigns. They are the smartest way to reactivate the people you've seen over the years in the past. Check it out, schedule a demo. We look forward to helping you help more people, piloting your patients back into your practice. Now back to our show. Thank you so much. And we appreciate it. We put a lot of information out there, and not a lot of chiropractors understand how they should be using it and how they should be thinking about it. I'd love to dig a little bit deeper in there with you, JT, which is I've gotten feedback. You bring up, social media posts and so on. And it's fascinating to me, the feedback that I get, because there's a good percentage of chiropractors that go, how is an inspirational post about being a better person or having a good day going to get me a new patient? And yet there's other chiropractors like myself and like yourself that go, isn't it obvious? And obviously it's not obvious. So I'm curious, can you sort of share from your, in the trenches practicing chiropractor perspective, which some think that, since I stopped practice, I no longer have a legitimate opinion. But for somebody who's in practice, how do you see it? How do you think about it? How do you know that everything isn't a direct response paid advertising to say, if I put this out, I'll get this back and therefore it's worth it, as opposed to sharing your heart and your message and your spirit and who you are, so that people can get a better sense, not just of how much is it and when can I come in, but why should I see you and not the unlimited number of options there are down the street that may even be much cheaper than you? How do you think about how other chiropractors should be thinking about staying connected with your community, using social media, sharing emails, and so on and so forth?
So one of my favorite quotes is always give without remembering, but receive without forgetting. If you're in chiropractic profession just to receive, you probably have to check some of your boxes there, because you really should be able to use, for instance, Amplified, where you're posting things, you're throwing it out there because you believe in what those posts are. You don't want to just post something and not read it. You want to believe it before you post it. So for me, I don't expect anything in return. It's just who I am. I want to serve the community with chiropractic care. And the way to do that in the social media world is to get the message out. Studies show it takes 10 to 20 times before people get it. And if they're only seeing a post one time, or if a doctor of chiropractic thinks it doesn't work, you've just got to continue that message. There might be a post that all of a sudden resonates, and then they look back on it and say, wow, okay, now I can really start understanding what chiropractic is all about.
The last straw phenomenon.
Yeah. Consistency is key. There's no doubt about that. And feeds move fast. Staying top of mind is absolutely critical. JT, when you look at the book and it's a memoir, sort of looking back and setting the tone, and I'd be curious to know, so no bones about it, kind of takes us where we are today. If you had to peek into the future, what's on your agenda for the next 5 to 10 years? What are you looking forward to doing, either professionally within your practice, or what maybe are you hoping happens within the profession during that timeline?
About a year ago, I got my manipulation under anesthesia, MUA certification. And I've been able to do that in a surgical setting, which has been an amazing way of, working with the joints. So I would consider it mobilization under anesthesia because it's a lot of deep stretching, as opposed to what people might think of, an actual manipulation. So that's one thing that I've been very excited about. For me, I want to be able to coach the younger students coming out of school and just let them know what resources are available out there. There's so many coaches. You can look at every door open and possible. But for me, having the practical experience, being able to point them to the smart chiropractor and be able to, point them to different things that they can do to build their practice is hugely important. So I see myself teaching, coaching, but yet continuing chiropractic really for the rest of my life.
I love it. For everybody listening and watching, where can they go and connect with you? How can they learn more? Where would you direct them to? What's the best place to, I'm going to say two things. One, where's the best place that they can learn and pick up a copy of the book? We'll certainly drop the link that you mentioned down in the show notes. Second part about it, I'd love for you to give docs, especially those younger docs listening right now that maybe would like to connect with a mentor such as yourself. How can they connect with you personally as well?
My YouTube channel is a great way to dive in a little bit deeper, see who I am. So just go to YouTube, go see JT. That's what you would type in there. As far as my book goes, it's jtanderson.biz, B-I-Z. That's a great way to kind of dive into my books and so forth. And then you can contact me directly by email, which is docjtanderson@msn.com.
We will be sure to drop all of those links down below. JT, thanks for coming on and chatting. I think it's been great to connect with you. And again, I'm going to really encourage everybody listening and watching. Let's support each other. Let's get out there. JT, again, I'll say it one more time. Thanks for taking the time out of a busy practice, out of a busy day, out of a busy life to write and contribute for other chiropractors to, I'm sure, learn about the successes and probably some of the missteps along the way that always happen with a career. And everybody having that opportunity to learn, to connect is what it is all about. Tying back to something you said earlier, I think it's something all of us can and should do more of. Thanks for coming on and chatting with us. And docs, please click those links down below and connect with JT. Thank you so much for watching this video on the Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.